Hi, everybody. This is your last week, class number 14. There's a few things I wanted to say about that. First of all, you can pat yourself on the back. You did a great job. I know you're wonderful parents. I hope that you've learned some information, some good things on these videos. I really wanted to have like cake and my famous homemade ice cream to celebrate this day, but of course we can't, and I apologize for that. I also want to apologize for being a day late on posting this video. I've had computer issues and I've got a new assignment, work assignment. It took me a few days to learn how to manage that program, so I do apologize. Another thing that I want to thank you guys for is there's not been anybody in this class that I've had to stay on their back and remind them to, get the video stuff in time. And I've had one other class that it's a constant fight with one person. It drives me crazy. So I really appreciate what you all have done and keeping up with everything. Most in this video, we're just going to probably won't be very long. I've said that before and it ends up being longer, but I'm going to try to keep it shorter. I'm going to review just a few of the classes that we've done. Just as a reminder, there will still be some test questions at the end. I think I've got 4 this week. And of course, as usual, they're just, as long as you watch the video, you got that. Go ahead and text me and email, your photo of the test answers. And, but mainly you will be getting a certification that you've completed the classes. You'll need those for judge, maybe attorneys, social workers. We have to mail those out to you because, of course, the house is closed right now. So it's extremely important that you text me those physical home addresses. Make sure you include your first name and your last name. But yeah, that's about, you're not going to get those certifications if I don't get something from you. So please do that. After the video, if you've got any questions, any concerns, please feel free to text me or call me. But anyway, we're just going to go on into it. Like I said, this shouldn't take very long. There's a couple of subjects that stood out to me that I thought were really important. The first one, I think you guys remember in the first and second meetings, they were mainly about nurturing yourself and what nurturing is. Nurturing is something that you do to have your needs met, or something you do that involves getting your needs met. Nurturing, it's very important, because if we don't take care of ourselves, then we're not very good at taking care of other people. We get a lot of stress, we get a lot of anxiety, and then we take it out on other people. I was even watching a TV show last night, and they were talking about the importance of taking care of themselves so that they could help their patients. It was a hospital show. And I thought, that's fantastic. Everybody's getting it. I didn't get it. Of course, we weren't taught that when I was a parent of small kids. But I tried to instinctively, I tried to do that every night anyway. Mine, I think I talked about it, was when everybody went to bed, it was my time for a book, soaking in the tub and just calming down. It helped me sleep a lot better. It helped me get away from, get rid of all that anxiety that had built up during the day. So, remember to, take care of yourself so that you're able to take care of your kids and other people in your life. It's, I hear about people in relationships and they fight all the time. And, if they would take the time to nurture themselves and calm that anxiety, deal with stress, their relationships might work out better. But anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about on that subject. The next one that I thought was important were the alcohol and the drugs. We talked about how damaging that alcohol and or drugs can cost or can cause. Sorry about that. Um, if you're really messed up, then you can't be a good caregiver. Your instincts aren't the same. You, your temper may escalate. I don't think I talked about this before. Maybe I did. It's also about the money. I'm afraid with this stimulus package that there's going to be a lot of people, not you guys, but a lot of people going out there and spending it on drugs, on the alcohol, and then their kids aren't getting their needs met. But alcohol can be very, very dangerous. Um, we talked about the reasons why people use alcohol or drugs. It could be from stress. It could be from depression. It could be from not getting enough sleep. Um, it's mainly used to cover up emotions that you just don't want to deal with at the moment. But you know what? When you sober up, all those problems and issues are right back. They're there. So try to deal with those situations when they occur. Don't keep them inside. Address them. If you have something that is going to call for a confrontation, go ahead and do it. Get out of the way. It's not as scary as you think it might be. But anyway, those were some tips that we talked about with the alcohol and drugs. One thing I didn't cover, and it's the importance of watching your kids, keeping up with their friends, who they're hanging out with, what kind of parties they're going to, watching signs for depression, anxiety, and stress that might trigger them to want drugs or for alcohol. I talked about the way that, there were several different things I did with my kids. One of those is I felt I had the right. We didn't have social media then. But, occasionally, and I didn't have problems with my kids doing this, but I wanted to make sure that if there was a problem that started, then we could deal with it at that moment. It wasn't, it was like looking through their backpack occasionally, maybe the drawers or closet in their room, and it wasn't me invading their space. It was me being an overprotective mom that had two boys that were really good, never had an issue, but I wanted to keep it that way. They formed different and new relationships in middle school and high school. Keep up with who their friends are. Let them have small gatherings at your home. We talked several times about this on making sure that the friends, the people they're hanging out with. If at all possible, the parents that those friends have, just to make sure that they're keeping stable and healthy relationships. Now I'm done with that topic. Another thing I wanted to talk about was our touch history. We talked about touching is very beneficial for our children, appropriate touching, calming, how was your day? And did you have a good day? And, this kind of thing, and infants all the way up. I did something yesterday that I wasn't supposed to do. I haven't got to physically see my family, and it's absolutely killing me. We do the FaceTimes and everything, but as I mentioned, my modem was about shot. So the plant board delivered it, but they're not allowed to come in your house and hook anything up. And I am not techie smart. So my oldest son came over to my house and hooked it up. And I'm telling you, the first instinct, and his too, is we just ran at each other and just hugged and hugged and hugged. And yeah, I know. It was like he fussed at me and I fussed at him. We just got so excited. But I even touch my grown children in loving ways. when they come over, how are you doing? Is everything okay? And, I love you so much with a kiss on the cheek and with hugs and that kind of thing. But we also talked about a touch history, that there's some touch that's not healthy. And we talked about where'd it go? I think, there was 3 different kinds of touches that make up our touch history. Those are hurting touch. We become self-defensive if people have a particular person has maybe hit us in the past, and they come at you to touch you, and your instinct is just to back off. That's a hurting touch. The other one is a scary touch. They kind of, those two, the hurting and the hurting and the scary kind of work together. If that person has frightened you in the past by their touch. And we also talked about the importance, if there was inappropriate touching with you, that it's always important. It doesn't matter whether it was 10 years later or 15 years later. Get a good therapist. We have free therapy at the Sunshine Center. Of course, right now everything's kind of put on hold a little bit. But, work those issues out. Maybe it was a long time ago, but you'll still pick up on things like that when people come at you. It can be reminders. I talked about an incident in my own personal life. My ex-husband was an abuser. And what he liked to do was get me by my throat and choke me. And I can't stand anything. This is about as close to being around my neck as I can handle. Those are touches that we remember from the past. And I have dealt with all of that with therapy. But it's a long standing feeling that I have when something's around my neck. I've got to pull and get it off. But anyway, there are, your touch history compromise is comprised of hurting, scary, nurturing touches. Another thing we talked about was empathy. I'm not going back in my book and reading all this stuff. I just kind of made out an outline and trying to remember the classes as I taught them. But empathy is what we feel about others. It can be, you've heard the saying, walk a mile in my shoes, or, understanding what that person is feeling, what they're going through. It's so important for us to feel empathy towards each other and towards others that we may come across. A lot of times it's because you suffered the same thing and it was hurtful for you, and you instinctively want to make that person feel better. Going to them and saying, the same thing happened to me, and I understand the grief or the hurting that you're going through. I'm going to be here for you if you want to talk about that. It lets that person know how much they're cared for, that they are important, that their feelings do matter. We want to, empathy is good when you're talking to your kids. I love kids and I love being around kids. And, the thing that I always remember and tell myself, and I tell people this all the time, remember that you were their age at one time in your life. Empathy towards a little one. They fell down and bruised their elbows or their knees. And, you probably did the same thing. And you remember how comforting it was for your parents to have empathy and care and concern for you. School age kids, this includes all ages. But if they got a bad grade and they're sad and they're upset, instead of yelling and carrying on about it, first of all, we talked about in a different topic on helping them to do better, not criticizing. I expect for you to do your homework. Your homework is going to teach you how to do good on a test or help you with your grades. And I'm here to help you whenever you need it. It might involve getting tutors, etc. But that's an example on showing empathy. In high school, you're going to do it a lot. You're going to have sons and daughters that get their hearts broken. You've been there and you've done that. You know what it feels like. Remember that. Get in your head, and maybe you go through the incident that happened to you, and you can feel how hurt and awful that you felt. Well, your child is feeling those same feelings. So comfort them. Be understandable. Don't make a joke out of it. I know when I was growing up, oh, there's other fish in the sea. Well, I wanted that fish. As teenagers, they don't understand that. But always remember that you were their age at one time. Now, the most important thing about all of this is that when you are showing empathy towards others and your children are learning, we talk all the time in these classes about being a role model. When they see you comforting one of their siblings or a relative or a friend, and they see the care and the concern that you have for others, they're going to develop empathy in the same way. They're going to go to their classmates and give them comfort. They're going to let them know that happened to me last year. Remember when such and such dumped me and broke my heart? I know what you're feeling. Let me be there as a friend. They're going to learn these things from watching you. And most parenting has to do, and our children thriving, is role modeling. Be a good role model. Don't get drunk or high in front of your kids. Learn new behaviors from these classes. Let your kids see those new behaviors so they can thrive and they can learn from them. And hopefully in turn, and the majority of times, they're going to grow up to be just like you. And what they've learned from you, if it's okay to drink 6 or 7 beers every night or 5 or 6 drinks or whatever, that's going to be the normal for them. And they're going to go through the same hurt and pain that you might go through. Anyway, that's all that I wanted to talk about that one. The next subject we talked about was criticism and compromising. We talked about how unhealthy that bad criticism can be. There's 2 different criticisms. There's good, which I like. It's beneficial criticism. There's another word, I can't think of it right now. Objective criticism. It's when my supervisor comes to me or the director and says, you're handling this project well, but I wanted to add a few things that maybe you want to think about in doing this better. That helps me. I don't get all in a tizzy and upset and mad, and I learn from that type of criticism. Your children need to learn the same way. I think, and we all had a laugh over it in class, I used makeup on daughters for that one. It was like when your daughter comes down and she's got a skirt that barely covers her behind and enough makeup to look like she's going out for Halloween, and don't scream and jump at her and call her bad names and you look like a tramp, you're not going out of the house like that. First off, that goes in your rules. I know that you want to wear makeup, but right now makeup is at home where you can start learning how to wear makeup right. And if you want to do that here, that's fine. But out in public, you're just not old enough yet. So let's learn the techniques and the use of makeup so then when you are ready to go out. So yeah, just don't yell at them and call them names. Just, thank you for cleaning up your room. I was appreciate it so much. There was a few things that I think that we can work on together to see if we can do this a little bit better. What do you think? Listen to them. That comes in when we start talking about compromising. In your house, you have power over the rules and what's going on in your house. I talked to the other class the importance of using that power correctly. Don't, I'm the boss of you. This is the way it's going to go. I hear a lot of this stuff and I hate it so much. I brought you in this world and I can take you out of it. That's horrible. Please don't ever say that to your kids. It sounds funny, but it's not funny. It's not funny at all. It's threatening. It's scary. Your kids are at different ages, and that goes back again to remember your childhood and how you felt and what you thought when things like that were done with you. But compromising, it's basically two or more people that have a problem or a situation or a rule, and they want to work that out to where all three people or two people, 5, a dozen, whatever it is, come up with the solution that everybody can work with. I compromise all the time in my life. Well, not as much as I did when I was raising my children. And, my full-time job I retired from, there was a lot of compromise. I had several supervisors, well, not several over the years, but many over the years that liked that power control. There was no compromise. This is what I want and this is what you will do. That's just abusing your power. So be very careful on how you use that power. Use it for the good and not for evil. I don't know. But, there's different ways. I'm going to give you an example of how you can compromise. Say that your child, whatever age they are, is allowed to go out now without your presence. Maybe your 10-year-old wants to go next door and play with a friend. Of course, walk out with them, visually see them go in the house. Maybe work out a deal where the mom or dad steps out the door and says, we're good now, and you put a curfew on that visit. Say it's 6 o'clock. And they might say, well, Mom, that wasn't fair. They wanted me to have dinner with them, and I wanted to, but I had to come home at 6. Compromising could be, I need you home by 6. You've got homework, you've got chores, you've got things that you need to do around the house. But I understand what you're saying. So from now on, this is the compromise here. From now on, when you go visit Mary, John, whoever, and they invite you to dinner, just call me. Have the mom call me. Is it okay for him to stay? Then we can change that curfew. They can let me know through a text, or they can walk you back to the house. And I'm expecting still to see you home. Give them time for the dinner. Maybe it's 6:30. I wouldn't, but that's a way to compromise. It's especially important when your child gets older. Say they're teenagers and you are starting to let them go to parties, supervised parties. Compromising is going to be big. They're not going to like it much. You're going to see a lot of that eyes rolling to the back of their head and shrugs and, first of all, if you get that attitude, just say, there's not a compromise here until you can act better. That was my go-to. But, work with them a little bit. Their mom and dad says the party has to be over at 11 and their curfew is at 10. work it out a little bit. Well, I understand that their curfew is 11, but your curfew is at 10. What if we come up with the time that suits both of us? Maybe you start out at 10:15, and I wouldn't push it. Don't give them a lot of space for that one. And finally, you might come up with 10:30. As teenagers, they still might not like that compromise. This is still, don't misuse power on this one. You just say, I've tried to talk with you. I've tried to work with you on a compromise. If there's a lot of negativity going on, like I said, you didn't handle this well at all. We're going to stick with 10. Or maybe they worked with it some, but, they weren't. Maybe you come up with 10:30. But compromise with your children. And that's going to be going on, for years to come. Working out problems with coworkers, with friends, relatives, direct family, siblings. Learn how to do that. Learn how to do that to where it's beneficial for all parties. The next topic I wanted to talk about was stress. We talked about different ways to help you relieve stress. Everybody's got their own thing. It kind of goes back to taking care of yourself. Maybe it's, I suggested that you get completely engrossed in something else. And, with me, I talked about it's books for me, or a good movie, or especially comedy when I'm stressed. Comedy has a way of lightening the load. Robin Williams was always my go-to. I still like to find his old movies when I'm really just like this. And I love him so much, I cannot take my eyes off. My thinking goes nowhere else. And I laugh until my stomach hurts with him. Maybe you can find something like that, a good book that you can be so involved in, the rest of the world doesn't even exist while you're in that book. We talked about different apps that are available now that you can get on your phone. Meditation, I said, my daughter-in-law does that. Every night, I think she does it still every night before she goes to bed. I don't know, maybe she does it on her lunch break at work, but she really loves her app. And it's just soothing, maybe soothing music and calming, and just helps you just breathe. Breathing techniques are wonderful when you're fighting anxiety. I used to be on a medication for anxiety called Vistaril. It's a non-narcotic anxiety medication. But my therapist worked with me a great deal on breathing techniques. You can Google that. If you have therapists, talk to them about learning it. I haven't taken a Vistaril in quite a while, because the breathing works for me. If I feel anxious about something, just taking the time to calmly breathe in and out and concentrate on that breathing. The meditation app, the calming apps, they'll teach you to work through those. But those are different ways. I think a few in the class talked about taking a drive, a hot bath soak, working on a car. Maybe you like to do those kinds of things. Going to the gym. Right now you can't go to the gym, but you can exercise at home. We talked a great deal about different ways that you can exercise at home. There's all different kinds of ways that you can help deal with your stress and your anxiety. And once again, you're role modeling. You might turn on one of that relaxation apps, and your kid is in the room and they'll say, "What are you doing?" And it's like, well, right now I'm feeling a little bit anxious, and I just need to calm down for a minute. They might join in and play. They might think that's funny. I remember when Braden, one of my grandsons, was in elementary school and they were learning yoga. And when he came over and spent the night, he was telling me and showing me, I about broke my neck, but he was showing me his different yoga techniques and stuff. And he was so cute. He was standing there like this and holding his breath and calmly. Maybe yoga is your thing. It's not mine. I don't have any balance. I about broke my neck. He thought it was funny. We had some good laughs over that one. But you're role modeling how to appropriately handle anxiety without medications. They're learning that it's not a drug that's your go-to. Um, I'm one of these people. I like to do things that are all natural, if possible. Of course, I have asthma and COPD, and I have to take medication. Um, but I like to do things the natural way. And there's so many things you can do, like your breathing techniques and your apps, taking care of yourself by soaking in tubs and et cetera, et cetera. And, behavior is another thing that you role model. Um, be careful with your reward system. Um, you know, when I say be careful with rewards, you don't want them to learn that every single time that they show good behavior, they're going to get rewarded. They might use this now at an early age or later, but they might come to expect that. We talked about doing a nice thing, for teaching them how to do nice things for other people without payment. The reward starts to get where they feel good about themselves. They've helped someone. Maybe they made a difference in somebody's life. Um, those can be rewards too. And talk to them about that. You did a fantastic job on keeping your room clean all week. That deserves a special reward. Maybe it's a milkshake instead of a smoothie, or maybe like something that they're not used to getting all the time. Maybe it's a super snack. Maybe you guys go in the kitchen together and make a cake or cookies, or just a small treat. Not every day, but you're really showing progress on your schoolwork. I'm so proud of you. You're doing your homework assignments as you need. You're talking to me or the teacher or tutor with problems you might be having. You're doing wonderful, and I want to reward you. How about if we just go to McDonald's and, spend some one-on-one time together and talk and keep up with each other, catch up with each other. They don't have to be expensive. A lot of times with this busy world and having to work all the time and do this all the time and run errands, and they may not get, quality time. More quality time might be a reward. Trying to be careful. Wait, I said that. You need to spend quality time with your kids every single day, all the time. But maybe that quality time is more lengthy, like going out to eat together, something like that. The next thing that we talked about were learning morals and ethics. Your ethics come in like doing a favor or something for a neighbor or a friend or a family member, and not accepting payment, to teach them. I think I used the example of my kids, particularly my oldest son, when he was growing up. He would do favors for neighbors, and I was very stern, not stern, but I wanted to make sure they learned that. My ex-husband was the same way. He was always helping other people, never expecting payment, refusing payment. They learned by the role modeling that they saw from us. And it was sitting down and teaching. You're old enough now, if you want to cut a couple of yards in the neighborhood to make a little extra money, that's fine. That's a job. Doing something for somebody else because they need help. Those are things you do without payment and not accepting payment. Those are some morals and ethics, and they're going to learn from you. Once again, role modeling. Um, those are important. Um, ethics about not stealing. I remember, gosh, this has been, I don't even think me and my husband had our kids yet then. And we went to stop by a convenience store on the way to somewhere. And when he came, I got what I needed, and he came out to that car. He was absolutely furious. My ex-husband absolutely adores children just like I do. And there was a mom in there, and she was using her child to steal from the store. It was very obvious. The mom turned around, looked at the child, and said, and pointed at what they needed to get, and showing the back of their pants where to hide it. I thought he was going to take that mother out. I mean, not out on a date. And he was just livid. But those are some of the things that we learn about ethics, not stealing, not lying, not cheating. When your kids see you lying about things all the time to family members or this or that, they're going to learn from you that lying is okay. Then they lie to you and you get angry. So be really careful about what you're role modeling when it comes to ethics and the morals too. Basically, that's going to wrap this one up. I want to, say again, thank you all so much for being the kind of people that I did not have to push and pull, and I can't do this until I get your assignment. You're a day late already. I can't deal with this anymore. I never had to do that with any of you guys, and I appreciate that so much. I've gotten some comments that uplifted me, and those compliments, even at my age, they can make a world of difference in somebody's life. We talked about being friendly to others and smiling and, making them feel better about themselves. And you guys, some of you guys have done that for me. And I thank you so much, especially right now. I'm quarantined and can't get out. And those kinds of things, they brought smiles to my faces. So thank you guys for doing that for me. It was very, very important. Once again, I'm so proud of you guys for following your mandate and doing what you're supposed to do. That kind of involvement lets me know that you're a good parent. You're doing everything you possibly can. You're going above and beyond to make sure that you're doing everything you can. And I congratulate you guys for this. It's very important to get that certification. I need your address, your physical home address. So text me those so I can get them all written down, and we can get your certificates mailed to you. But anyway, this is the close. Congratulations, everybody. Sorry you didn't get my homemade ice cream. It's wonderful, by the way. But anyway, here's the test questions. There's 4, in case I mess up, and I'll tell you that one. One of the topics we talked about was touch history. And we said that there's 3 different types of touch. The touch history is comprised of 3 different types of touch. What are those? And once again, just a little brief one. Name the 3 types of touch that compromise, or that, whatever, it's your touch history. I always get too mouthy. Let me see. And yeah, actually I skipped. That was actually number 3, but it doesn't matter. Number 1 is about nurturing yourself. I want you to name me something that you do that is nurturing yourself. Yeah, that's number 1. It's about, I want you to name something that you do that nurtures yourself. Number 2, we talked about different reasons why people use drugs and or alcohol. I want you to name one of those reasons. The last question is about compromise. Give me an example of compromising. You can use the one that I talked about in the video, or you can also use one of your own. But anyway, this was brief. I just wanted to remind everybody about some of the different things that we talked about. It's been great working with you all. But anyway, be safe out there. Be a good role model for your kids. And anyway, this wraps it all up.